They're still talking about alcohol down the way, so good luck with getting anybody in here. Come on in. Right? There's old Doug. Okay. Welcome. We didn't finish this last week, so as promised, we're back, which I'm kind of glad we are because I think it's important. People, there's a word for it that is used among preachers, and you've heard it, I suspect, and it's called proof texting. Now, a text can prove, but text taken out of context may lose something. They could lose a lot, as a matter of fact. Jesus says a lot of things to a lot of people in a lot of contexts. And if you took one from, say, if he's talking to the scribes and Pharisees, those hypocrites, you could pull something out, and what if you took it over here and plugged it in where he said, he looked over the crowd and he had compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and plugged it in over there. It wouldn't fit. Neither would the other fit over here. So being Jesus appropriate is significant. We live in an age of sound bites, and Jesus gets to become a sound bite in many ways, wrested from his content. Like there was a thing the other day I saw a couple of them. We need to be turning over more tables. Well, okay, maybe we do. But Jesus' ministry was not a ministry of turning over tables. There was a time and a place to do it, and he did it. But that wasn't his normal way of doing things. So, no, it's not. And even when he's looking out at people who have messed it up and who are wrong and who are, they got problems, he attracts a lot of those people to listen to him because he lets them know that even though you're over here in the culture that you're in, I have a place for you. Woman at the well and the Samaritan woman. So Jesus isn't generally pointing at people and calling them out, because usually they're like sheep without a shepherd, and they've had people to help them get where they are, and those people need to have millstones tied about their necks and cast into the sea. But the people that they fooled, that's another thing. So we want to be Jesus appropriate. Okay. Now, more of that I want us to emblazon upon our minds and hearts is when we're talking to somebody about Jesus, what are we talking to them about? My experience, and I'm the only one who's had my experience, but I've had a lot of it, as you might suspect. And my experience has been that our primary evangelistic objective is to get people baptized. I'm certainly not opposed to baptism. I'm all for baptizing as many people as we can. But I also know that if people don't understand that they have decided, I'm going to be a follower of Jesus. Got a song, I've decided to follow Jesus. Or very overtly, based upon Jesus and the Great Commission of Matthew 28, I want to be a disciple. I want to give my life to that man. I want to be his. I don't want to be mine anymore. I want to be his. That's kind of repentance too. I mean, that's part of it. So we're looking for people. We're looking for people who want to go, if you will, all in, as best they can figure it out right then, and they'll discover things along the way. And we're asking people, we're wanting people to think about, talk about, consider following Jesus. Now, part of that will, of course, be they'll be baptized. But you and I know that sometimes people are baptized, and that's not on their mind at all, at all, at all. When our young people come up, and it's time to be baptized because Fred and Sally got baptized, or they went off to camp and got baptized, or they did this or that and got baptized. I would like, as much as can be known, for our children to know, I'm wanting to follow Jesus. I want to give him my life. I want him to be in charge. I don't want, and that takes a little bit of age, I think. I baptized a 9-year-old at Carnes one time. I'm still convinced she was 40 and a midget, but she was perhaps the most precocious child I've ever known. And she was way ready. I wanted to, you need to baptize me. I don't need to baptize you. But most of the time, when you're 7, 8, 9, even 10, you're not really to make that kind of I'm giving my life to Jesus thing. But that's, as we're out and about, that's what I'd like us to be able to talk to people about. See if now, Jesus said, he said it, he makes the rules, does he not? Yes, he does. Jesus said that there is a broad way. He did say that, did he not? And he said that there was also a narrow way. And he said, because he knows, that few there be, with regard to the narrow way, that find it. I think that means few there be that find it. So following Jesus isn't for everybody. I wish it were. I would like it to be. And I'd love to find people who want it to be. But as far as, okay, it's time for me to stop managing my life and being in charge, and it's not working, and I need this man. He's the one. I want to follow him. I want to be his disciple. The more we can do that, the better things will go after baptism. And the more we can be more directional and specific about what happens after that. Okay. Anybody want to say anything about that? Apparently not. Start at the top quickly. Those struggling to find rest. There are people out there who are struggling to find rest. They may not want the rest Jesus offers when they find out what it is. Okay. But they're looking for something. Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. There were people who followed Jesus. John 6 is a great example. When they found out what that meant to follow him, these huge number of people who wanted to take him by force and make him a king decided, we're leaving. That's a hard saying. So, there's are you willing, do you want the rest that Jesus offered? And we'll be as kind and as patient, as long-suffering as we can be to help them find that. What about those with selfish motivations? We find that in John 6. Jesus calls them out. They follow him, put forth effort, and he says, he said, you're not following me because of the signs, in other words. You're not following me, but because if you paid attention, you would realize I'm from God and I'm God's person, and you need to just let me be in charge of your life, consequently. But you're following me because you were hungry and I fed you, and you'd like to get fed some more. And it's okay. It is what it is. Those who were unwilling to grow. Now, that's an interesting category, isn't it? The apostles. Who would have picked those people? Right? I mean, seriously. If they'd have put you in charge, hey, we want you to get Jesus 12 folks to follow him. And would we have picked those people? I don't think we would have picked one of them, but Jesus did. And one of the reasons he did, Judas being the exception, is that in spite of their moments when Jesus would undoubtedly do this, and have I been with you so long, and stuff, he knew that he had their hearts when it was all said and done. Simon Peter, again, John 6, when he says to the 12, do you want to go? He says, where else would we go? You have the words of eternal life. Okay? So that, to me, is one of the classic things that anybody says. And Simon Peter, shortly after that, he does something where he gets called, get behind me, Satan. But there, he's doing well. And if we can get in that mindset to where, I didn't know that was part of the deal, or I don't maybe understand this, but it's Jesus, and I don't have anywhere else to go, I'm going to figure it out. Then we got something we can do, and that's who he's looking for. Those willing to grow. People tend to plateau. Fred, one of our newest members, Fred Kennel with his wife Sandy. Here they are. Been having water issues out where they live, but it'll all fix itself. Turn it on. You got to turn it on, Fred. You're a pilot. You know stuff.
I need a green light, right? I was going to make a comment about who are willing to grow. I was always amazed in John's gospel where he talks about the rich young ruler.
Mm.
And when the rich young ruler came to ask the question, and Jesus saw him and he loved him. It was
He
the first
did.
time he said he loved him. And then he gave him an opportunity to grow, and he thought it was okay where he was at. He didn't want to grow anymore.
Right, and he's sad. Jesus is sad. Everybody's sad.
Yeah, but initially Jesus was happy and he loved him. And I thought that was an interesting thing, that Jesus really wanted him to grow, and he had decided growing is not important.
No, no. He'd grown all he wanted to. Thank you very much. He had stuff, and that's a very good point, because people plateau for various reasons. They get to, they probably don't just sit down and think, okay, I'm where I want to be, but they get to that place. And they seem quite comfortable being at that place. One of the evangelism books that I read, there's some good in it, but there was one line in it that I thought was just really, really, really good. It was, Jesus is the most exasperating man that ever lived. He's never going to let up. He'll be kind, he'll be patient, he'll be nice, he'll be encouraging, he'll be helpful, but he will never be all right with you settling in and not growing. Now, put yourself in the place of a parent. Isn't that what parents do or supposed to? Oh, you're doing real good in the 5th grade? Really, that'll just be good enough for me. So you failed the 6th grade, or I failed, would have failed the 3rd, but they broke the rules just so they could get. But people kept they would always say of me, it was a common thing that I heard, but you've got ability, and stop it, or you don't apply yourself, because I didn't. But Jesus is always looking for people to apply themselves. And if they don't, he'll maybe even come back 2, 3, 4, 5 times. You ready to apply yourself? And if people don't want to apply themselves, then I'm sorry, but you can't be a disciple if you don't want to grow. So if you're willing to, as messy as it might look, he's there to help you do it. It's already on.
He's speaking for
It's on.
myself, but you've got to read the Word. We've got to read the Word
Yeah.
regularly.
Regularly.
It's amazing how that'll help.
Yeah, that
It
Bible.
teaches- I've been reading from Matthew, and I'm in Revelation. It's like reading it for the first time.
Well, you get
I'll
these
be
new
85
experiences.
years old.
Wow.
But it gets richer every time you read
It does, because that's the way it is. Because God is rich, Jesus is rich, the Bible is rich. No, and it's exciting to study the Bible. It's enlightening. It's like a two-edged sword. It sorts us out, and we need sorting out. So, if we are willing, then I taught at the School of Preaching for 30 years. 30 years. Pretty much every day. Monday through Friday for 30 years. I was the preacher at Carnes for 22 of those 30 years. So I'm spitting out Bible all the time. So I'm having to engage it. And we had students to come. It was amazing the wide variety of people we had to show up to want to be preachers. It was enlightening. Some of the better preachers were not some of the brightest students. They weren't dumb. I remember one guy, I won't call his name, but me and David Farr talked about, man, that guy's got the full pack. He's got it all. He's got everything you'd want in a preacher. Dropped out of the church in about 3 years. So Jesus is looking for willing hearts. It said of Jesus that he had no form, no comeliness, that we should be attracted to him. He didn't have, if you will, charisma of his appearance. He had charisma of his content, of his character, of his love for people. He could have showed off and beaten anybody in the world with knowing stuff if he'd have wanted to. But that wasn't what he's not wanting to, let me wow you with how much I know. He's wanting to help you get to where you need to go. So that's what we're looking. We're looking, hopefully ourselves are, but that we're looking for people who want Jesus to take them on along. Take them on along. And when he finds somebody like that, like the apostles who are not the most likely candidate, a rich young ruler, we'd all picked him, wouldn't we? I mean, this guy's got money, he's a good man, he's this, he's that. No, not really, because he really doesn't want to follow Jesus. Okay? Those disciples who missed a vital understanding, well, what does he do? Okay, let's go to Matthew 16, where Simon Peter says his good thing, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. Right after that, Jesus from that time, this is one of Matthew's divisions. He's got half division and 4 other divisions. He says, I'm going to go to Jerusalem. And they're going to mistreat me. They're going to beat me up. They're going to kill me. But on the 3rd day, I'm going to be raised up. Nobody listens to the 3rd day, I'm going to be raised up. Up to the time he's arrested, nobody's paying any attention to the 3rd day, I'm going to be raised up. They don't pay any attention to that until he's raised up on the 3rd day. And oh. But Simon Peter says, and it's a colloquialism that would literally be something like, not the Father to you, that would get translated in, let that be far from you. In other words, he's saying colloquially, the Father wouldn't let that happen to you. He wouldn't let that happen to you. Because he thought, what do you think the Messiah was going to come do? Set up an earthly kingdom? Yes. He's not going to die. In fact, even the crowd that welcomes him in with the triumphal entry, as we're doing John's reading post that, and Jesus said, I'm going where you don't know. And they realized he's talking about dying. And they, wait a minute, you're not supposed to die. And right there, all those people who were welcoming him in suddenly lose a lot of interest in him because he's not going to be the Messiah they want. So, if you were a disciple and you had a critical misunderstanding about what's up, he'll, if he has to, and he had to with Simon Peter, this is vital, this is crucial, this is huge. He says, get behind me, Satan. And that was with all the love he had, I'm sure. Because if Simon Peter is going to continue on that misunderstanding, that carnal, earthly kingdom stuff, it will never work. Now, Simon Peter, to his credit, we find times when he's not at his best, but he always stays around. Even when he denies, he comes back. He's a keeper because he just persists. Like Jesus, when he's talking to him, before he denies him, after he said, I won't deny you and all that, and yeah, you will, yeah, you will. He says, look, Satan, he wants to sift you like wheat. He says, when you've come around, he knows Peter will come around. He knows Peter's heart. When you come around, you need to strengthen your brothers and sisters. And he did come around, and he did. So if there are times in our Christian life where we may be on something that will not serve us well for our future as disciples in the kingdom. And if we need to just have that cold slap in the face as a person who really wants to do what's right, and we'll react to that well when all is said and done because they really do want to do what's right, as opposed to, well, we don't want to stir them up or we don't want to do this. And I don't want to stir people up. I really don't. But Jesus would risk stirring up to get people where they needed to be if that's what was needed. And sometimes somebody just needs to be told, I need to be told, you need to be told. Look, this is the deal. You missed it. Here it is. If our heart is right, we will, if not then, soon say thank you. I really needed that. We've all had times in our life when somebody redirected us, and at the moment, it wasn't pleasant. The Hebrews writer says, no discipline, chastening for the moment is pleasant. It's like, hey, beat me, I love this. But after the fact, you realize that that was for your good and helped you to be a better person. Jesus will do that to us. And we need to see that as a good thing, because there are times when we human beings need to be told what for by Jesus. We need to be open to his word. We need to look at a passage and understand that it says what it means what it said, and I'm not going to mess with it and try to bury it over here or explain it away. It is what it is, and I need to face it. those who fancied themselves right with God, who were dangerous wolves in sheep's clothing, they were not spared. Okay, how does he do the scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites? He calls them scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites. He talks about, as we alluded to a minute ago, the little ones. If anyone causes these little ones to stumble, it's better for them to have a millstone tied about their neck and thrown into the sea. And if you get thrown into the sea with a millstone about your neck, you're going down fast and you're not coming back up. So the one group that he absolutely turned tables over and did whatever were those who think they've got it. What does the Pharisee do when he prays, and the publican, the tax collector's over here? I'm a great guy, I do this, I do that, I'm not like this cruddy man over here. I am. And what does the text say in Luke? He was praying to himself. God didn't hear anything he said favorably. He heard this guy over here, God be merciful to me, a sinner. There are times in a true false teacher situation where somebody has sold out for themselves to lead people astray, and they're going to, thank you very much, and they don't care to just let it be what it is, because that's serious stuff and Jesus won't have it, and neither should we. So we've got a lot of Jesus responses potentially up here in the context of where we find it. So I would, as you're reading, in particular through the Gospels, if you would just take a moment as you see him doing noteworthy things, which is full of them, if you would say, now what's going on here? Why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? I had a challenge in the bulletin Sunday, which of course I know you all read, and so you're well aware of what I'm talking about, where I would say, just look at when I'm out there, as I'm going, and I'm just out there, you know. What am I thinking? Who do I think I am? Why do I think I'm out there? What's up with my life? What's that all about? And I said, look at Jesus to get an idea of what he apparently thinks his life is all about when he's just walking around. That's not a downtime. That's not a checkout time. You're still your God self. You're still your Jesus self. He was still God-man self when those things were going on. And just look and see, and I gave a hint. I said, some of the most valuable lessons you can learn about Jesus being what he needed to be, because that's just who he was when he didn't do anything. Think about it. We'd have been there, we might have done this, we might have done that. There are times when Jesus just doesn't do anything, because that's the best thing to do. And I've learned a lot about how to at least try to control myself. There are some times when, you know, if Jesus had wanted this said and done in a circumstance like this, he would have said and done it, and I'm in one of those circumstances, and I just need to shut up. So we can learn from the quietness of Jesus as well. Well, okay, any thoughts? Okay. Talking to people about Jesus. We live in a world. Well, look at Paul going into the Mediterranean world. He starts with synagogues, right? Where they're Jews and God-fearers. But shortly after that, he gets the Jews that are gettable. He gets the God-fearers that are gettable. He often gets tossed out and gets beaten up and stoned and everything else when they figure out what he's doing and that they don't want it. But then he said, I'm going to the Gentiles. I'm going to the Gentiles. The Gentiles don't have Bibles. They don't know much about God at all. Mars Hill, their philosophers, poets, had figured out some things about God, that he can't be represented by idols. That just doesn't make any sense. And so Jesus, I want to talk to you about the God you've made an unknown God shrine for, in case you might have offended one of them you forgot. He's the only one there is. I want to tell you about him. And so we live in a pagan culture. They don't even have gods and goddesses. They're pagan. They think it's crazy. They think that the supernatural is weird, and that we're incredibly dumb for thinking that there actually is a God and supernatural. But most of them have never had an opportunity to think about the reasonableness of God. Okay? And there's some things that we can throw out to good and honest hearts, I think, that might make people think, okay, I am fascinated by a lot of things, but by 10-day weather forecasts. Anybody else look at that? Is it ever right? No. I've known meteorologists who say, we just do that for people because they like it. We don't have a clue. And that's true. Okay, so here, over here, they've got data on top of data from everywhere in the world, constantly. We are right here with weather, for goodness sakes. And they can't get a 10-day forecast over here. But we can figure out how the whole universe came into being and why it's so intricate and amazingly fine-tuned. And we can tell you exactly what happened with that, and here it is. Does that make any sense to you? No, because it doesn't make any sense. This is a horribly complex, fine-tuned universe that we live in. And to think that it just came from nothing, which of course I've mentioned to you, I think, the new thing is that nothing isn't nothing. I seriously read an article. Physicists have discovered how you can get something from nothing. No, I thought, well, I need to look at that. That'd be interesting. So I did. And there were at least 5 things they talked about that had to be the case before you could get nothing from nothing. So I'm thinking, if you got to have 5 whatevers to get something from nothing, you got 5 whatevers, and that's not nothing. But people, pointing out some absurdities, just, you don't have to be combative, you don't have to be nasty, you just this really doesn't make sense to me. Think about it. And give them something to think about. Bonnie Raitt, put a rock in their shoe. Another thing, okay, let's think about this. What are the possibilities to explain? Consider this. Let's say everything just went kaboom. And so here we are. We've got fabric, we've got wood carved out, we've got carpet, we've got clothes, we've got cars. That's all that is matter that just happened to do that. That's all it is. There is nothing personal about that. There is no consciousness. It's just a fabrication. It really isn't real. This is all going to that telescope they got out there, which is an incredible machine. That's just something that caused everything exploded, and that's just what happens after enough time. You get telescopes in space, for goodness sakes. Don't you see that? Well, no. I've always thought that National Geographic is one of the best defenses against Darwinian evolution, because they show you all this amazing stuff, and the way they have to explain it, it doesn't make any sense at all. But back to our story. Okay, one is everything came from absolutely, not these 5 things, it's absolutely nothing. I mean, real nothing. Francis Schaeffer used to call it nothing. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. That's why you got there's this force, there's that force. Wait a minute, you're getting stuff in there. You said there wasn't anything. Take it out. What do you got? Well, so nobody really believes that. Like number 2. And there's only 3 choices. Choice number 2. This is matter, stuff, molecules, atoms, quarks, and whatevers, have always been around. There is a law, second law of thermodynamics. Matter can either be created or destroyed, but it can entropy out. We did this once before. Let's do it again. It's such fun that I know you were hoping we'd do it again. Ready? Entropy test. Use your hand. Are your hands warming up? Bring the heat back. You can't do it. It's gone forever. Heat loss. Can't be covered. The longer a system goes, the more heat it loses. That's why we know this isn't an eternal matter thing, because it would have already given up a long time ago, which is kind of an absurdity of itself. So that, there's nothing in anything that we know that would cause that to be a reasonable explanation. This has always been here. Oh yeah, okay. Now saying, well, what about God? He's always been here. God's not matter. It's a completely different discussion. So don't be diverted into that. Number 3, and I see this more now. I see this more because people are driven to it. Now they'll put qualifiers on it, but here's what they'll say. They will say, well, there was a creative force. They'll quickly say, I'm not talking about God, and I'm not talking about personal. It's just this impersonal creative force. Okay, now wait a minute. If an impersonal creative force created something, would you think it might be impersonal? So why are we personal? Talking about Shoney's in our little meeting a while ago is a place where we might go sometime to eat. And I said, I like the grits if they're not watery. Why should my atoms care whether grits are watery or not? They shouldn't. Molecules don't care about stuff. So that doesn't make any sense. Why do we think some things are beautiful? Why should there be beauty? What's the difference between beauty and ugly? There shouldn't be any difference. It's just stuff. Why do we react to poetry or skillfully crafted words as opposed to just throwing stuff out there? Why is that true? It would seem that whoever brought this about had that as part of who they were. They were a being that can appreciate beauty and order and fine-tunedness and all that kind of good stuff. Otherwise, if it's just nothing, why are we superior to our impersonal creator? Because we're personal. That makes no sense. So, planting a few seeds to get people to stop and think about, because people talk without thinking. We all do it. We've all probably had, I said that, I know I said that, I don't know why I said that, I don't know why I've been saying that, that didn't make any sense, I got to stop saying that. And people, they might not do it while they're with you, because pride, but if we give somebody something to get in the still of the night, that person made some sense, I don't have an answer for that. That ends up a lot better than what I've got. In fact, what I've got kind of silly. Have you still got your microphone, Fred? Or Anna, you're going to have to give it back to Fred. I'll help you. I'm here for you, Anna.
Sandy and I read Ecclesiastes this morning, and one of the things that you just spoke about, we covered this morning in our reading. It was from chapter 8 in Ecclesiastes. And
this is a great book.
And it was written by Solomon, the wisest man on the earth, I would say, probably the richest man as well. This is what he said in verse 16 of chapter 8 and 17. When I applied my heart to know wisdom and to see the business that is done on earth, how neither day nor night do one's eyes see sleep, then I saw all the work of God, that man cannot find out the works that is done under the sun. However much man may toil in seeking, he will not find it out. Even though a wise man claims to know, he cannot find it out.
If you don't factor God in, you don't know anything, nor can you. Okay? Here's my famous ping pong ball illustration. You've all heard of it. I used to do this started with green board and yellow chalk and moved to things like this. Then I got overhead. You are on a train, and you've gone to the game car to play ping pong. So I even get to use the whiteboard. This is so cool. A little corner up here. Here's the game car. Here's the ping pong table. Here's two people playing ping pong. This is not copyrighted, so. This is a ping pong ball. The train is going. The ping pong ball is going that way. If you're on the train car, how fast is the ping pong ball going? 40 miles an hour. Which way is it going? That way. If you're outside looking at the train, how fast is the train going? 80 miles an hour that way. So if you're factoring in train to ping pong ball, on one point you got 40 going that way, and another you got 40 going this way. And that's true in a relativistic sense. Context determines meaning. So, but where is the ping pong ball really going? And how fast is it going? You can't figure it out because you got the Earth rotating, you got the orbit, you got the this, you got the cosmos, you got, you can't know everything you need to know what the ping pong ball is actually doing. You would have to be outside the system instead of being imprisoned by it to a point of view where you could see everything. Who could do that? That'd be God. So if you wanted to say, well, God, where's the ping pong ball going? He could tell you. And he's the only one who could. John, he's spelled like Jean because he's French. Sartre, and it's Sartre it looks like, but Sartre because you know how they are. He said this. He's an existentialist philosopher. Which means only the moment is true. Only the moment is true. That's what existentialism says. He said, and he's very profound. He's absolutely, completely, totally right. There is no finite point, our ping pong ball, that can have any meaning apart from an infinite reference point. And he thinks there's not, so nobody knows anything. There's no truth, there's no absolutes. But what if there is? So investigating God claims to see if it, it really looks like God knows stuff. How would he know? He knows more than we know. He comes up with profound things. Fred, have you got what'd you do with your microphone? I gave it back to you. You did. Thank you. It's sad. Yeah, you've been around me enough to where this is just me being me.
I forgot what I was going to say.
I do that to people. Students would find themselves in that position. I don't know what I was going to.
It discourages me that really, really intelligent people have it in their mind that there is no way there can be a God, that everything has to be explained, and will be explained by the laws of physics that we discover. And it limits what they can do. It limits how far their thinking can be. And I see very, very intelligent people spout this stuff about how we were created and how we evolved from this stuff.
Yeah.
And they say, 100 million years ago this happened and that happened. I'm thinking, you don't know what happened last week.
Well, they don't know 10 days worth of crash. That's exactly right.
But it's almost as if...
When's it going to rain next? I don't know.
But it's almost as if they want to deny the existence of God.
Pride.
Because of pride. Yeah.
No.
Smart.
We're supposed to know because pride. Yes.
So, one other thing I want to say is, smartest guy I've ever met, smartest guy that ever lived.
You've been around smart people. You're a smart person.
I'm squeezing my fingers together really hard. That person is only that much smarter than me when compared to all the knowledge of the universe. I mean, so what if you know?
Yeah, you know that much more.
We don't know.
What about this?
And another thing is in Psalms 14:1 it says, "Fool said in his heart, there is no God." And that makes very good sense because to say there's no God, you've got to go to everywhere in the universe, to every point in time,
which you
every phenomenon.
You're that close to that.
and find and verify that nothing
I know there's
out
not.
of laws of physics has ever happened, and you can't do this, so you can't really say
What did the
that.
Russian guy say when he goes to the moon? He looks at it and says, I don't see God. Well, wow, that proves that, doesn't it? Okay, one of the things Schaefer did, I'll close with this. He's talking about people on a plane. You got this guy who grew up out of civilization. He doesn't know anything. He's sitting by. You got this physicist sitting here, and the plane's going down, and this guy's praying, and this guy thinks it's over. This guy knows more than the physicist. He knows there's something out there, which is the most profound thing you can know of all. And the smart guy doesn't even allow for the biggest part of the equation. Again, our three basic causes, again, the only one that makes sense is there's a personal creator. It's the only one that makes any sense. Okay.
One more thing. You said there's got to be an infinite reference. So I have a question. Is there such a thing as absolute truth that exists even if the universe is gone?
Okay. If you're talking about within the system itself, no.
But is that an absolute truth?
That's the thing. Because people who say there are no absolute truth, they've just said that this is absolutely true.
And that's a paradox.
Which
You can't
it,
say
it
that.
caves in on itself. But we don't want to do that. That's no fun. Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Oh, let's see here. 32. 32. Here in a moment, I will tell you when I get back up, I'll tell you what the invitation song is. 32. Let us sing. I will call upon the Lord.
Please bow with me. Jesus, thank you for this wonderful night that you have given us and this wonderful day and these past few months as we come to the third quarter of our year. We recognize that we've been blessed so much this last year with this pandemic coming to a close and being able to meet again here in the building. Help us to remember all that you've given us through the Bible and to keep its teachings and to spread the gospel everywhere we go. In Jesus Christ I pray. Amen.
Israel, what's your... You don't know yet. Okay. Stay tuned. TBD, to be determined. Our invitation song. Sometimes we forget things. I don't, but I've heard there are people that forget things. I don't really know that. Okay, so watch this. What shall wash away my sins? Okay, that's the last time I'll ever lead a song for you. But, don't say that, because that's not true. There was an article that I read, and I don't know if it was on Facebook. I can't remember where I read it, but it just struck me as amazing. I never knew this, and so I'm just going to read this. I just copied and pasted it, put it right in my notes on my phone. I'm kind of surprised I was able to do that, but I actually did it. And listen to this, and this is just amazing to me. A rattlesnake bit one of my sheep in the face about a week ago. Deadliest snake that lives around here. The sheep's face swelled up and hurt terribly. But the old rattlesnake didn't know the kind of blood that flows through the sheep. Anti-venom is most often made from sheep's blood. The sheep swelled, face swelled up for a couple days, but the blood of the lamb destroyed the venom of the snake. You think that's a coincidence? Now, I Googled this, okay, y'all? I Googled it to make sure that anti-venom was coming from lamb's blood, and it's true. Did anybody know that? I mean, we're not unknowledgeable people about Scripture and about things like that. How did that escape me for this many years? That's amazing. You think that's just a coincidence? Or do you think God maybe designed things like that so that we could go, oh, I get it. Physical lessons that teach us spiritual truths. The guy goes on, I was worried, but the sheep didn't seem to care. She kept on eating, kept on drinking, kept on climbing around on the hills because she knew that she was okay.